Subnet Summit. We have Stephen Gates, CEO of GoGoPool. I am stoked to have you here, sir. I spend every week with your man Breevy pumping GoGoPool, so I am very stoked to have you and learn the things that you're willing to share about how your GoGoPool makes subnet development fun. So, welcome, Stephen.
Absolutely, dude. Thanks for having me here, and thanks for having me here on the last day as well. Close everything out. Yeah, on the ecosystem spaces are getting popular, dude. People
Yeah.
like you. People like Preview. They like the dynamics. They like the Savvy DeFi guys. I
Oh
just
yeah.
got a message Thursday of last week, I believe, saying it was the most well-run Twitter space that they've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
Just like
Oh yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I
Oh
think the
yeah.
ecosystem needs it, right? Just some sort of glue for the ecosystem.
Yeah, just having that regularly is such a good idea. There's so much that goes on. I think we might push the Subnet Summit like into a regular thing as well, and have you guys help co-host it, because like there's literally like 100 subnets live right now, something insane. Like I don't know how you're supposed to keep up with all that info unless there's a media source specifically designed for like
Yeah,
that type of thing.
happy to. Let's do it.
Yeah, great, no brainer. So we've been, if I'd love to like understand a bit, whatever you'd like to share. I'd love to get into. Also, just as a way of background, um, in my previous life, I was a musician, so I was in New York for 15 years playing music. I worked at nursing homes and had my own band, and the band was called Amerigogo. So we have the go-go thing going on. Our GoGo logo, the Amerigogo logo, the Amera logo was its own thing. So it's cool to see like the GoGo come back in a different, brand. I think that's cool. Maybe I'll write a ton of songs for you just on the fly. I'm gonna get back into that in a bit, but just wanted
Yeah,
to give some GoGo love.
love it. And some go-go lore. I think
Yep.
one thing that nobody really knows, but so like I'm a serial entrepreneur, right? I've been doing startups for a while. This is the one by far that's kind of like the most exciting, just in terms of impact change the world. But every single time starting a new project, especially all the little prototypes, whatever, it's like, all right, gotta think of a code name. And I noticed we were spending so much time trying to think of names that I just ended up calling everything GoGo X. So like even for this one, after we got the first prototype ready, we're like, okay, well, what would we call this thing? Because now we need to show people. I was like, I don't know, dude. GoGoPool. Let's roll with that. Let's go.
Yeah.
But then just kind of keeps going. So it's pretty fun.
Yep. It's great. It's great. And okay, cool. Let's get into it, man. I want to see it. So usually what happens is people give their presentation, and then I ask them questions, and then we take some chat from people who show up, and
Cool.
that's it.
Let's do it. If you don't mind, slight nudge on that. Feel free to chime in on any slide, because
Okay.
the way I want to structure this is more of a story, right? Where I'll
Okay.
tell the story of GoGoPool, how I got into this, like why we think this is so incredible as well, and why did we choose Avalanche? I mean, we with a lot of different options, but why did we choose Avalanche to build on? And then what are we actually building on it? And then where do we think that's going to kind of slot in to the greater ecosystem? So as soon as a story, and crypto's a multiplayer game, if you have any thoughts, like, I don't know, let's keep it rolling, and feel free to chime in on anything.
Cool.
I guess being slightly mindful of time, but other than that, I think we're good.
Yep.
So the story all starts, I think it was the Q4 or late Q3 before the summit last year. So I don't know, my years are all messed up. I think that's 2022, maybe 2021. But the kind of story started where I was running a different startup, and we're creating new business models for content creators, especially Twitch streamers. And we were just thinking, all right, technically, how does this work? How can we get the community involved with kind of like participating in the upside of a content creator's business as it grows? And just technically, how can that even work? So look at the different things. Turns out blockchain is the perfect way to solve this, right? You can tokenize this asset in some way, have some sort of value accrual to the thing programmatically through smart contracts, and away you go. Then the question came, okay, now what blockchain do I actually build it on? Lots of different networks. We looked at all the different networks. We looked at kind of Ethereum L1, looked at the different L2s that were popping up. Supernets didn't exist back then. We looked at Cosmos, Polkadot, looked at subnets. We're like, all right, we're trying to make a VC kind of scale opportunity here. Let something go global, become bigger than Uber. And it's like what infrastructure can actually help us get to that level in the next 2 or 3 years without slowing us down. And subnets were the only rational choice. It's just process of elimination. The subnets with their consensus algorithm plus being a sovereign blockchain. If people don't know what subnets are, they're just basically private blockchains, let you customize everything you'd ever want to customize about it, but gives you all the batteries included. So consensus algorithm, some networking primitives, gives you blockchain out of the box. Almost. Well, the primitive layer of the blockchain out of the box. So then that's when we got red pill on subnets, my team, and we started kind of digging in deep about that. Fast forward a little bit, we're stuck on this one component of how do you source the AVAX and hardware for this. As we start building tools for subnets, we realized this is what we're getting really excited about. And it's like, okay, this thing actually, like, if subnets were easy to build on, it could let any team build a venture scale opportunity with the subnet primitive. And it's like all of a sudden you'll get your own kind of crypto as Silicon Valley people who are building different blockchain technologies, experimenting with different VMs, and that's what really excited us. So with the first prototype of GoGoPool kind of going, we're missing one core piece. I ended up going to Barcelona at the summit last year. That's where I met Johnny Galt, my now co-founder. But I remember clearly kind of at the end of the summit that we had this moment where it's like, all right, man, like, what are you working on? What am I working on? Like, I knew he was working on this one core component. And there's this moment where we just like both turned our laptops around on the table. And it's like, here's what I got. And then he showed me what he's got. We shared repos like right there. And I was like, oh shit. Like, one, this guy is phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal. He wrote this whole MPC software in like a month. It was like just phenomenal. And then on the other side, it's like he was also looking for like a really good reason to use this technology and a good team to grow with. And so that's when we shook hands and away we go. And I guess from there came GoGoPool, that's where we got really red pilled on the idea of let's make subnets easy. And our mission is to help builders bring blockchain technology to the world. Our chosen vehicle for that, just because we think it's the best technical choice to build venture scale opportunities. So our chosen vehicle for that is by making subnets easy. So I guess taking a step back now, it's like now zooming out a bit, where is Web3 right now? Where does Avalanche fit in? What is Avalanche? Like, why did we choose subnets? Why did we choose Avalanche? So right now what we're seeing, and especially last year, we saw massive demand from large institutions, especially on the experimentation side. All these really big brands, all these massive institutions are eyeing blockchain technology, and they're like, all right, there's clearly something here, but how do we use it? What is it good for, et cetera? So all these people need to experiment with this, and they need to minimize a metric that we call internally time to value. Okay, I pick up the blockchain technology, now I got to wrap my head around it, then I have to deploy kind of the blockchain, then to actually get my customers to use it and give them value. And then that's how, for me, I get value out of the blockchain technology. It's like, how can we shrink this timeline and make the cost of iteration a lot cheaper so that these large institutions can just start play with the technology, quickly prove out, just like a website, right? I mean, one of the startup lore of like 2008 is that every startup was recommended, hey, dude, just if you have a startup idea, just throw up a website, pay $1,000 for Facebook ads, and like see what happens. Like, that's incredible. That is incredible how easy that is and how cheap and fast that is for people to experiment with different ideas.
Yep.
Now coming to blockchain, it's like, hey, bro, I either choose to write your own dApp chain or make a smart contract protocol. Smart contract protocol, all right, 6 months of engineering, another 3 months of audits. By the way, it'll cost $1 million in audits, depending on how much scale you want out of this. Oh, by the way, it's turning out that all the auditors, there's like they're good, but you're going to get hacked anyways, probably.
It's also illegal to launch here in States.
I was just going to say, also, by the way, I hope if there's a token involved, I really hope that your team, like your founding team's not in the US, right? Like, there's all these problems for people to experiment with.
Oh, and they're all securities, and you need to register, and there's no way to register. Oh, and even if you register, we won't approve you.
Totally. So it's like, all right, as an entrepreneur or a builder, do I test out my Web2 idea, put up a landing page, drive ads to it, or try to figure out this whole blockchain thing? Unless you really care about the blockchain right now, it's just not going to happen. And the even the worst part is, okay, now if you're a large institution, your Blizzard, your World of Warcraft, whatever, you're going to be deploying Web3 component to this. Let's say you figured all that out. Now, where are you going to deploy? It's like, what are your options? And what we call first generation blockchains, like Ethereum, I would lump Solana in there, kind of all the name brands right now. It's like as soon as just anybody puts up some sort of dApp with really high traction, the chain completely breaks. There's reorgs, really high gas fees, takes 6 minutes to confirm your
And
transactions.
reorgs are not blockchains. Just throwing that out there.
Reorgs are not caused by blockchains, you mean?
No, if your chain reorgs, you're not a blockchain.
Oh. There you go. It's like, yeah. So there's all, and then how centralized are the sequencers? Like if it's a roll up, it's like it's a whole question, right?
Yeah.
So all right, first generation blockchains to us, it's like if you're a builder and you're really ambitious and you're trying to figure out how can I build out to scale, it's like where do you go, right? And then that's where introducing Avalanche. I kind of alluded to this earlier, but this is kind of the whole framework that really red pilled us on Avalanche. Because in our view, Avalanche is a next-gen blockchain network. It's built specifically to help sovereign blockchains, or we call subnets. Again, subnets are basically private blockchains. And right now, like only Avalanche, only subnets allow for really high TPS, really low transaction costs, and plenty of flexibility in terms of let's customize my VM, let's customize the EVM so I can still use all my EVM tooling, but I need to like change a couple things about it, especially on the path of going from permission to permissionless. I think like subnets are the only thing that can support this path while also letting you scale out to millions of users. In 3 to 5 years, we confidently think the vast majority of blockchains will be run on Avalanche. Like I am so convicted about this. It's insane. The only thing that has to happen is to make subnets easy right now in the next 12 months.
Yep. So before you go on, 80% of blockchain. So what do you imagine happening to these other existing chains? Where do you see them? What do you?
They're not going to go away for sure. To a certain extent, as long as the developers keep waking up and keep working on a chain, and as long as like tokens and NFTs, these assets create such incredible brand loyalty, like these devs aren't going to go away. And as long as the devs are still working on a chain, it's not going to go away. Yeah, you look at Dogecoin. You look at the Ethereum Classic is still around. It still has some non-trivial TVL, right? Like this little community. So they're definitely not going away. And the important thing is, I think a lot of them, there are two audiences here. One is the crypto to crypto audience. It's like, can I build something for other crypto folks? I think that's what the current blockchains, the current chains and networks are built for thousands of users, not millions. When we talk about millions of users, all of a sudden your protocol, your network has to be crypto to Web 2. Crypto to non-crypto.
Yep.
And I think it's still completely fine, right? Like they're going to have their niche of the market, their segment of the market. The market's going to be massive, right? Like if you're taking this industry very seriously, like we are, right? Like this is our profession now. Like you're not here because you think in 5 years blockchain is going to be like, I don't know, the sum of like Wyoming's GDP, right? Like you're here because you think blockchain has potential to be the sum of like the U.S., like North America plus South America's GDP in like 5 years, right? It's like that's why we're here, because
you're tokenizing all the things, right?
Totally, tokenize the world's assets. So I think this will be around. I think it's going to be amazing, right? Like,
so I suspect what will happen. My red pill on this is what we see with BTCB on Avalanche.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Bitcoin, there's more Bitcoin processed on Avalanche than there is natively on the Bitcoin Lightning Network. Right. There is no way that that Bitcoin's going away, but they're fundamentalists. They're fundamentalist screwballs that like actually think that it's Bitcoin that's going to save the world, which is insane. But we can port their technology over to Avalanche. Right.
Yeah,
and that's
that'll get duplicated. You're saying across, with things like Landslide.
Yeah, dude, exactly. So the thing that we figured out at Landslide was the value in Cosmos is not Tendermint. The value in Cosmos is the users and the VM.
Totally.
So we threw out the consensus algorithm and we just port the users in, just like they did with Bitcoin BTCB.
Totally.
Right. And that's going to happen because we're connecting Avalanche to IBC. That means any chain that runs on IBC can run its VM, as long as the VM is also ported through a landslide subnet through the Avalanche Lite client. You'll be able to port it over any chain that touches IBC. So my red pill is sort of in that zone.
Yeah, I love it. And it's incredibly valuable, right?
Yeah.
Like it provides an incredible utility to the ecosystem.
Yep.
And I think the same thing will happen with rollups. I think people are trying to like the OP Superstack. People are like,
so
right.
rollups are connecting to IBC too.
And now I think they're gonna also like run on a subnet. It's like use the Avalanche consensus because I mean it's just built different. It's better.
Yep.
And then connect that over to Landslide, connect that to the IBC, do your thing, right? But it's like I don't see why you would want to build a roll-app that's not on Avalanche.
Yeah,
right?
I think, as Goon always hammers on this, right? Like other L1s didn't solve the issue. They just kicked it down to the L2. And L2s are not solving the issue either with centralized sequencers. So
yeah.
So all this, introducing Avalanche, right? Here to save the day. Yeah, in 3 to 5 years, 80% of blockchains will be run on Avalanche.
Okay, yeah. Spruce is huge.
Kind, scrupulous viewer, don't take our word for it, right?
Okay, yes. I love this slide because Spruce, I think is the underrated, basically IBM Hyperledger just died, right? It never went anywhere. No one used it. There were closed source parts of it that prevented widespread adoption. You'd have to pay a ton of money just to get access to it. And, R3 and Corda, failures in the graveyard. So now they're just sweeping up the dead. And Spruce has all these mainstream institutional names on it, right?
And I think what the awesome thing is, so games and financial institutions are the main people who are taking this extremely seriously as of the present moment. But I think what's the awesome thing about all this is, again, for them, process of elimination, who else could they work with? What other ecosystem could they launch on, right? Now there's this Evergreen subnet, there's Spruce, KKR coming over to Ava Labs and Avalanche, TSM, Chinese Chess Federation, or the International Chess Federation, Gunzilla, SK Plane, etc. It's like all these people, these are really big enterprise sales. And I guess the viewer might not have a life in sales, so they don't really know what that means. But what that implies is this is a 1 to 5 year, maybe even, at least the first preemption point is about 3 years in. So it's a 1 to 3 year relationship. At any point in those 1 to 3 years, the institutional partner double checks, hey, is this what we want? Should we re-up for the next 3 years, right? This is how kind of they work with vendors. But these are really big institutions, and they need some sort of white glove partner to work with. And Ava Labs is filling that role perfectly. I think what's needed, going off the rails of this slide a little bit, but I think what's needed now is for the community to step up with a much higher standard of quality.
Yeah.
Right? Ava Labs is out there being the jump and closing these blue chips, extremely large enterprises that, frankly, for me to close TSM, that might have killed our startup because it's just the sales cycle is 12 months long. We can't, we're just not structurally set up to close these type of people. But it's these type of people, these blue chips, that start setting the precedent of, oh, this technology is very serious. Oh, there is extreme interest in this. And as more blue chips hop on, all their little competitors start eyeing blockchain technology as well. Oh shit, well, if they're launching soon, we haven't even thought about blockchain. Now it's all of a sudden it's a part of the conversation. And again, which ecosystem can create this shift? I mean, Nathan, the other ecosystems more than me, but who do you think is most best positioned to kind of fill this kind of gap right now?
To fill the corporate gap?
Yep.
I mean, are you setting the volleyball up to spike?
A little bit, but not really. I'm actually kind of curious because my only answer that I could think of is Aptos and Sui, or these
Aptos. But look at Aptos.
I know, but they're going to be 3 years behind, right?
Look, Aptos. Just look at the scoreboard, dude.
Yeah.
They promised 160,000 TPS. There's 8.
Yep, I think they're 3 years behind. 3 years behind. Maybe Arbitrum, Optimism. These people are becoming more BD focused now. Immutable X. These people are becoming more BD heavy teams. But I think, frankly, everyone's behind Ava Labs on this front by quite a large margin. Right? To close one of these deals, you have to remember, again, to the scrupulous viewer, these are enterprise deals. So for every one that's being closed,
It's probably 20 in the pipeline.
I mean, think
Right.
about like look at Reddit, right?
Oh, sure.
Whatever happened at that deal, uh, they closed it, right? But now they can't scale it. What are they going to do?
And I heard Starbucks backed out as well.
Because they can't scale it.
Yeah.
Because DPoS is a beauty pageant. It's also a bottleneck. So like
It's rough. It's rough out there.
It's rough seas, man.
Yeah, dude.
So yeah, I don't. Yeah, there you go. Subnets are expensive.
So now this is the final kicker. It's like, all right, if we as the community need to raise the standard, help new people enter the ecosystem, build out new business models. It's like, okay, what do we need to make this happen? Because right now the really big institutions are hopping on board, right? And they'll figure it out. Like they've got enough resourcing to work on this thing and launch something in 12, 18 months. But if you're a builder, I mean, frankly, like me, when I chose Avalanche, I just need a Web3 component to this thing. How can I test something and get my time to value down to like a month, 2 months, right? It's like one of the biggest barriers right now is that the cost of hardware and the cost of AVAX is much too high. And I don't even mean in the cost of AVAX, like, all right, it's like $18 right now or whatever, or the cost of hardware, it's like, okay, this is AWS is $300. I mean, the whole package. For me as a subnet builder, me like a year and a half ago, I'm coming into this thing and I'm like, all right, well, I'm used to web development and backend development where there's an API for many, many things. There's a ton of partners. It's like there are so many competitors to AWS that the cost of hardware and just even the cost of even getting the hardware, like click a few buttons and get my hardware, it's been driven down dramatically. But now we look at kind of blockchain as a new compute platform in terms of where can I get my compute from in different blockchains. There's just not enough people doing it. And that's what makes the cost really, really high. So this is one of the biggest problems is that the minimum investment right now to launch a subnet as of current prices is like $200,000. Depending on how many nodes you need, et cetera, like that can go higher, that can go lower. That's untenable, right? That's like you raise a pre-seed, you raise a seed round, now you're spending 20% of the funds raised on investing in just the subnet, just for the AVAX, let alone the whole kind of onboard into what is blockchain technology, what is a VM, how does these things work? It's like all this stuff just totally increases your time to value, which is a bad thing, we think.
Obviously.
Introducing GoGoPool. So that's really why we created GoGoPool to help solve this problem for people. GoGoPool is a permissionless staking protocol built for Avalanche subnets, and it's built to lower the cost of hardware, minimize the cost of sourcing your AVAX. So now you can start. One of the beautiful things about Solidity is that for a smart contract developer, I don't have to think about the compute resource at all. I just type out my Solidity code, I click the deploy button, and then it gets figured out, right? The compute platform of the blockchain, the EVM figures everything out. For subnets right now, there's nothing like that. So that's why we're building GoGoPool. GoGoPool is a mechanism to pool resources together and launch new subnets via the GGP token, and we use liquid staking as well. Normally to launch a subnet, projects stake AVAX coins or the AVAX token. So if people don't know, to launch a subnet, every validator node of your subnet or of your blockchain also needs to be a validator of the main chain. So that's 2,000 AVAX per validator node that comes on minimum. So you would have to normally to launch a subnet, you stake your AVAX. Both GoGoPool projects stake the GGP coin. They get matched with AVAX through our mechanism, through the pooling mechanism, and they get to launch a subnet for 50% less cost. And on the flip side, if you're just a hardware operator, now these people, instead of just renting AVAX or renting your hardware, now you can actually own the hardware, own your AVAX, so that this becomes a lot more useful than just being a validator node. Now it becomes a compute resource for all sorts of things. If you want to join Landslide, you own this validator node, go join Landslide. If you want to join the SparkNet, go join SparkNet, right? Like you lend out your computer resource as you see fit. I think a big marketplace will happen about that, but we'll talk about that later.
Wait, what? The what?
Little teaser for you. So the way this kind of works at a high level, GoGoPool is a marketplace between two parties. The first is a liquid staker, liquid AVAX staker, and the second is a subnet operator or a hardware operator. So for a liquid staker, they have AVAX, but they don't want to like run the computer for it. They don't have enough, like they don't have 2,000 AVAX. So they have their own AVAX. They stake with GoGoPool.
And then now they get to earn rewards with no technical knowledge while also directly supporting subnets. When you liquid stake with GoGoPool, you are directly helping a new subnet launch, a new hardware to get launched. It's not just delegation, you're directly helping us bring the subnet feature a little bit faster. On the subnet operator side, these people don't have any AVAX, or maybe they have a little bit of AVAX. They stake the GGP token, they get matched with AVAX, and then with that hardware, now they have a new validator node. They can do whatever they want with it. They can now launch a subnet or loan it out to a subnet and validate for a subnet.
Okay, I want to really hammer this here. Because this is big. So the GoGoPool is a two-sided marketplace or a three-sided marketplace.
Two-sided marketplace, but the subnet operator part. See where you're going with this. Don't we can't get too excited quite yet.
Okay, fine.
Big
so here, this
coming.
is a two-sided marketplace.
Big announcements coming at the the conference.
Okay.
Yeah. Another big announcement getting teased at the conference. But it's a two-sided marketplace between hardware operators and the liquid AVAX stakers. These hardware operators, what we're seeing is a lot of subnets also want to operate their own hardware at first because they need to get comfortable with the technology, and they're like, no, I need to own this hardware, at least in my permission phase. But where we think this is going to end up going is as subnets go permissionless, now anybody can really quickly own a validator node, not just rent it, but actually own it for a long period of time and start playing in this permissionless marketplace.
Cool.
So how does this actually work? Alluded to before, but GoGoPool offers liquid staking. You swap a liquid staker swaps their AVAX for GG AVAX, and now you're earning staking rewards in real time that's being streamed over to you. There's no hardware required for you, no technical knowledge, 0.1 AVAX minimum. All that AVAX gets sent over to the deposit pool once the user swaps the AVAX for GG AVAX. And as the node operators then stake the GGP token to get matched with AVAX from that deposit pool. So node operators, they stake 1,000 AVAX and they stake a bag of GGP tokens. This bag of GGP tokens enables them to get matched with AVAX from the deposit pool. And now they're able to launch a validator node with only 1,000 AVAX staked instead of the 2,000 natively. And again, it's non-custodial and they own this hardware now that they can do anything they want with it. Validation periods up to 12 months. Update coming soon to help you go even longer than that. The vision here, and I hope we can start seeing all the different components here. It's like, okay, there's liquid staking, and now people are incentivized to put their AVAX into this thing we call a deposit pool. Then there's node operations happening on the back end as well. So people are launching new hardware, and that's going to launch a lot of hardware, right? Hopefully we get to launch, 200, 300 new validator nodes for the network. And that'll be a wonderful world because all these people are kind of being properly incentivized by the GGP token, specifically for helping subnets launch faster. And then third part of this is now subnets can both launch their own hardware or start working with these hardware providers because now they're easily identifiable and easily reachable through GGP token. Now they can start working with these hardware providers to launch their subnet very, very rapidly. And where we think this will end up going is that subnets end up powering app chains at scale. It's like this is where we think subnets will power 8% of all blockchain networks in 3 to 5 years. And we think GoGoPool and GGP token is being an instrumental part of powering that vision. So if we go back to our mission is to help builders bring blockchain technology to the world. Our chosen vehicle for that is by making subnets easy. So there are 3 ways that this directly helps get connected to the mission. First is with mini pools. This is what we call those validator nodes. Teams can now source validator nodes much easier. They can source AVAX and they will be able to source hardware much easier and be able to actually own their hardware. So they can do whatever they want with it. The second is that liquid staking with us directly helps grow subnets and directly helps launch new validator nodes. So this provides the community a way of directly helping out to get subnets to ship faster. And third, kind of underpinning all of this is we've set up a GoGoPool DAO or GoGoPool Foundation. And the DAO is tasked with shepherding the ecosystem, raise the standard for the ecosystem so that we can help more subnets launch faster via different tooling and services. And this is the kind of, stay tuned for an announcement at the conference about tooling and services kind of
Nice.
Being shepherded by the DAO.
Great.
And at scale, we think Avalanche will be the default choice for large institutions, all powered by GGP. Traction, we can talk about this stuff if you're curious.
but protocol
Yeah.
goals,
Let's see that
etc.
track. Let's see that traction slide. Come on now.
Cool.
BAP.
So for traction, one thing I'm pretty proud of, and one thing we approached very differently, is we closed that round in June of last year, actually, like literally right after the US Terra collapse.
Awesome.
And the thing that we focused on is, I don't want to say no hedge funds, because hedge funds are cool, but like very incentivized long-term thinking partners. So people like Framework, Coin Fund, FinTech Collective, Republic Capital, Avalanche, Alpha Crypto, GBV. These people are very long-term. They have a very long-term outlook on crypto. Like 3 to 5 years is like what they look at. And one thing I'm very proud of is getting the right people into the mix, like the right cap table. They've been so extraordinarily helpful, and every single person has contributed in some sort of unique way. And we're able to dodge a lot of bullets, Nathan, which is kind of funny, right? Like, the 3ACs, FTXs of the world.
Oh yeah.
Like, I talked to a lot of funds, right? We talked to a lot of funds during fundraising just to make sure we find the right partners. We're doing
that's super important. I want to just expand on that a little bit. Like we've been pitching, so we, landslide to a bunch of people since January of last year. A lot of people never got it, and a lot of investors are just outright adversarial, and you can tell on a call if someone is like that, and you don't want that person anywhere near you.
Totally.
If someone is immediately adversarial out of the gate, just ask GPT to say, come up with something that says something nice, and then just quietly leave.
Totally. And I think also another hack I found to quickly figure out like who's a fit, who's not a fit, ask who their LPs are. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're fundraising, you'll learn about, these VCs get their money from what's called LPs, not liquidity providers, but that's basically what they are. And depending on the LPs,
That's a hilarious statement, by the way.
yeah, I know. Like nobody would get that, but that's going into my stand-up
statement.
comedy routine for CEOs. But yeah, these LPs dictate kind of how funds should operate and what they do, and especially on what cycle do they need to see returns on. So some funds have LPs that say, hey, within 3 months when you start seeing returns. It's like, okay, that can happen in crypto, right? You invest in something, token goes
I don't
live.
know
There's a weird vesting schedule.
Maybe, but I
no, bro.
Good luck.
You look at 3AC. Like go look at who they invested in and go look at the price graphs for that, and then match that up to the vesting schedules, right? I mean, there's FTX, same thing. Like, the game was being played by certain bad actors, and it's all because where they got their money from. Well, it's not all because of that, but the LPs are a very strong leading indicator of how a VC firm will act. So even for this, like for us, we had nice classic LPs. So stuff you want to look for is things like from pension funds, college funds, all this type of stuff, like worker funds, unions. These are kind of the predominant blue chip LPs in the Web2 startup scene. And they're getting into crypto as well, but only with kind of the best investors. So then right now also, we'll be doing a public sale via Avalanche. It'll be up to 400K. Same with this private sale. It'll be up to 1.2 million. I say up to because I'm really hedging to make sure that we only find the right partners, right? Like we've already turned away a lot of people, which I love those people and appreciate them for spending the time with me. But if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit, right? And for us, we're just so extremely focused on help builders bring blockchain technology to the world by making subnets easy. We think there's a 12-month window for this. And we can only really have the right players be on board to be on the ship for the next 12 months.
Amen.
Protocol goals we can talk about a little bit. Maximize safety and freedom for node operators. So if you use GGP tokens, or if you use the GGP token, or if you use liquid staking, GGAVAX, here's kind of like our creative promises here, is that there's maximum safety and freedom for node operators, liquid stakers. Again, own your own hardware, do whatever you want with it. Liquid stakers come in and come out as liquidity is there. 2, maximize subnet use cases with different tooling. It's like there's all this hardware now. Like let's activate this hardware to become more of a compute platform, not just a validation kind of software. And then 3rd is on-ramp subnets in the community via integrations in the 2. I think that's something really important to us. That's something worth like landslide as well, right? Like there's a lot of things that we can do.
Yep.
But I think it's going to be pretty important to
help these subnets get integrated into the crypto community.
Yep.
I'm not sure. Oh, here we go. Team. It's not just me and John working on this. Not just me and Johnny Galt. There's a whole team. We've been kind of working together on this thing for the past 12 months or so. Again, announcement coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, just a shout out to go back to your team there. Yeah, let's get the slide back. Yeah, so Brian Felsen, he was can you go into his background a little bit? He's a pretty serious dude.
He's a pretty serious dude. And he chose to work at GoGoPool. I think that says something. So Brian's background is that he was the previous head of communications PR. I think he was basically CMO at Harmony Protocol. And he basically started with Harmony, saw them go all the way up and all the way down, right? Through the bull market and through the different crashes. So he's definitely a very tenured person. He's been around the block, gets crypto, and he chose Avalanche, chose subnets to work on because it's like, oh shit. Chose GoGoPool team to work with because like, oh shit, this can really work, right? And in a way that doesn't repeat past crypto failures, right? This is going to be something net new, net positive for the ecosystem.
I mean, yeah, that's cool. But like, what he had a position at CD Baby, right?
He did. I didn't know you knew that.
Well, that's why I wanted to give him some props here.
Oh yeah, so yeah, he was president of CD Baby, Book Baby too, I think, but very non-trivial. I actually know a little bit less about the specifics of like what those did, how influential they were. A little bit before my time. I think how old was I, Nathan?
I don't know. Let me go back into my Old Testament here, sir.
But no, I mean, extremely. Yeah. So yeah, go for it.
So CD Baby was like the only place for you. Like now they have DistroKid and there's other sources for musicians to get their work out. But at the time, CD Baby was like the only place to like have your music distributed. So it was a really simple way for you to like produce CDs and sell them. It gave you barcodes at the time, which was crazy. This was like, and then they pushed all of the content out to all the digital channels. So at the time, like it was huge. It was like so like the fact that he was president of CD, like I found that out. I was like, that's freaking crazy. And I had a call with Brian and showed him the Marigogo stuff like on CD Baby. With our account.
So you guys use CD Baby?
Yeah, back in the day. Yeah, 10, 11 years ago. Yeah. And so like CD Baby is a really interesting business because Derek, the CEO, I think his name is Sivers. Yeah. He was very helpful to a ton of entrepreneurs like early on.
He's a legend, right?
The guy's a legend, man. He's a legend.
Yeah.
He did a really sort of important interview with Tim Ferriss like years ago, and he was very helpful to entrepreneurs like in 2010 to 2014.
He gave like the first, I don't know, this doesn't have a chat, right? Yeah, so people can't see it, but he gave the first viral TED Talk, pretty sure.
That's right.
Like the start of movement one, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So
good.
So Brian, having Brian aboard your team is a really great asset because he's seen, the trail of dead and like where to, how to keep GoGoPool on the straight and narrow and where, how to market it to the world. So he's a great hire.
And with an extremely high standard of quality.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think he's raised the bar internally. And then now I'm really working on raising the bar externally as well, just with the community. But I think, yeah, it's huge, right? Just the operational excellence. Like look at other crypto protocols and not down on anybody, but it's like how these people are running their, can we even say business, right? Like who here is thinking about revenue, right? Who is thinking about business models? It's like, where's the distribution? What's the scale? It's like basic business stuff. But I think that sort of operational rigor in crypto needs to get better.
And can you share? I don't. I'm sort of familiar with Johnny Galt's background, but can you share with us some of the work that he did previously?
I am not sure. So he is Anon. I know so his flavor of his background, he was one of the people, he started programming on the internet like in 1998, right? Like he participated in the whole .com boom and everything since then. He was one of the first 3,000 people probably to read the Bitcoin white paper, right? Like, he was right there in the Ethereum DAO hack.
Yep.
Most people probably don't even remember. But he's been around since literally he was following Goon before he was Goon by a long shot. Like even before the Bitcoin white paper came out, it's like Goon was doing some stuff, and like he was right there, just kind of commenting on stuff, getting his thoughts, and like moving forward. And when the Bitcoin white paper came out, like he described it as like, yeah, I mean the paper came out, but it was like, there are like 15 papers just kind of like getting floated around these, in these channels. So like nobody knew this was going to be the thing. And then he kind of like followed the whole journey from there, and then took crypto extremely seriously to pivot his personal career into it. Like in a couple years ago. I actually don't know what the exact date is, but for a couple years he's been really deeply involved into crypto.
Cool. Right on, man. Thank you.
Love it. So did we do it? Next, what's next for us? Big announcement coming tomorrow. I teased so many things during this. I don't know if that was irresponsible of me or responsible of me, but big announcement coming tomorrow. Look for our team at the summit. Another big announcement happening at the summit. Something I think is going to be incredibly foundational for every single thing that we've talked about. Again, our mission is to help builders bring blockchain technology to the world. Subnets, our chosen vehicle, making subnets easy is our chosen vehicle for that. Not by accident, but because it's like, dude, it hits different. Subnets are just different. And we think it's going to be an incredible technology. So really big announcement related to that at the summit. And then I'm extremely excited to work with the entire community, the entire ecosystem around this, start building things with a very high level of like standard for quality around this vision about help subnets help subnets launch faster and help make subnets easy.
Great. Awesome, man. Well, we look forward to the big announcement tomorrow. If there are questions on YouTube or Twitter, please throw up a hand and we'll bring you up and ask a question. Otherwise, we're coming up on the hour here. I have a couple questions here. Can you talk about any folks who are committed to deploying subnets through GoGoPool?
I can't. I don't think I can.
Okay.
More announcements coming out on that though.
Sounds good.
I shouldn't.
Sounds good. Can you talk about any like have you guys reached out to custodian partners to help, like BitGo or Copper? I think BitGo is kind of one of the only mainstream custodians that's insured.
Yeah. So BitGo is great. We haven't had deep talks with them. Haven't reached out with the QCs too much yet. I think where we're going first is let's make the cost of getting hardware and AVAX extremely cheap. And I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit for that just inside of our own ecosystem. But I think to kind of mechanize the process and help, scale this thing out a little bit more, I think people like BitGo are going to be instrumental for that.
Okay, cool. Where on which companies or on which servers does GoGoPool run its validators?
We don't run validators really. I mean, we spin them up for people if a team comes to us and says, hey, like here's our blocker to shipping faster, it's like we're going to help them. So we've spun up a couple of validators on AWS just to like spin it up, let our tooling kind of like get its first test and kind of so we can see through the whole stack. It's not like we're committed to running validator nodes though. The whole idea of GoGoPool is let's create a decentralized marketplace of validators so that more and more and more people can use their own hardware, own their own validator node, and go from there. And that's how we think there can be a really differentiated marketplace for these subnets. So I think subnets are going to have kind of weird hardware requirements for sure.
Well, I want to give a shout out to Nirvana Labs here that we've run a bunch of subnet of validators on there. They have a great SLA uptime. They're cheaper than AWS.
Yeah, Nirvana's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So shout out to them. I'll throw up their thing here. Are there closing thoughts that you'd like to leave folks with, other than this crazy announcement?
No, I'm all good. All good, dude. I think follow me on Twitter, STV and GTS, Stephen Gates without the vowels on Twitter, just to keep up to date on all the announcements that are going to be coming out. If you're at the summit, you know, for every person that references this, finds me at the summit and references this, I'll give them $1. So, you know, a nice little incentive. But I think that'll be a lot of fun, is to meet people at the summit, and especially if you are participating in what's getting announced tomorrow, then definitely I'm trying to be a little bit vague, but definitely come find me at the summit. Like,
okay,
let's chat and I'll buy you a beer.
Okay, great. Thank you for your time, Steven.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
Thanks all.